Morning, guys. Today, Wayne Dyer shares with us another amazing piece of advice, and that is there are no justified resentments. So, what that means is there's no reason for us to continue to allow hate and vengeance to fill our hearts, no matter what's happened to us. It's a very hard thing, a very hard practice to implement, but we have to work on it because there's no reason to justify why we should allow hatred towards any other human being, no matter what's happened to us. That is still a decision we make. It's a hard one to, sort of a hard, bitter medicine to swallow. But if we can accept that, we can change our life, and we can make sure that the resentment stops with us, that the negativity stops with us, no matter what's happened to us. It's very difficult, but if we can commit to that and understand there's no justification for our own resentment, we can free ourselves. Have a great morning, everyone.
The world recently lost a legend of the personal development industry, Mr. Bob Proctor. And so to celebrate his life, please enjoy one of these videos that I've made from our vault of Espressos.
When President John Kennedy asked the father of the space program, the famous Dr. Wernher von Braun, what it would take to build a rocket that would carry a person to the moon and bring him back safely to Earth, he answered him in 5 words: the will to do it. The will to do it. Pretty light, simple answer for such an enormous question. But I'm going to tell you something, the will to do it, that had a lot of power in it. What do we mean by that, the will to do it? Well, will is one of your higher faculties. You have perception, reason, memory, imagination, intuition, and the will. Will is a mental faculty that gives you the ability to hold one idea on the screen of the mind to the exclusion of all outside distractions. You know, you'd be hard pressed to figure out how many things are trying to grab your attention at any given time. But there's all kinds of things going on around that are begging your conscious attention. You can block them all out and keep one idea on the screen of the mind with your will. Will is a mental faculty that gives you the ability to hold one idea on the screen of the mind to the exclusion of all outside distractions. It's the will that gives you the ability to concentrate. Concentration is a powerful mental tool. How do you develop your will? I'll tell you. You take your pen or a little black marker and go opposite to your favorite chair. There's a wall opposite your favorite chair. Put a little dot on the wall. Do it when nobody sees you doing it, and nobody will ever notice the dot's there. Every time you sit in that favorite chair, focus on that dot. Bring all of your conscious attention to bear on the dot. Now, when you look at it, your mind will wander. That's okay. Don't feel bad because it wandered. Bring it back to the dot. Every time it wanders, if you concentrate on that dot for a half a second, you'll probably set a family record. Our mind is so busy. You focus on the dot, you find your mind wander. Don't feel bad, bring it back to the dot. You can get to the point where you can concentrate for quite a while. And I'm telling you, you concentrate for a while, you're developing great powers. Or get a candle in a candle holder and put it somewhere around your favorite chair. When you're alone, light the candle and stare at the flame. And stare at that flame until you mentally become one with the flame. Now again, your mind's going to wander. Don't feel bad about it. Bring it back to the flame. Just bring it back to the flame. When you learn to concentrate on one thing, you can concentrate on anything, because that is how you develop your will.
We give up too easily on our goals because we've proven to ourselves that we can't follow through on our goals. Every time you set a goal and you don't follow through, you're creating the pattern in your head, the mindset, the identity that I'm the kind of person who doesn't follow through. So what happens the next time you set a goal? Well, your brain will kick in to say, you're not going to do that. How many times have you set a goal for yourself? It might be some big giant goal, right? Like, I'm going to crush this year and I'm going to be here by the end of the year. Awesome. Might be some big goal. But chances are even the little ones, even the little goals, like I'm going to work out today, or I'm going to eat well today, or I'm going to make that call today. How many times have you set even a little goal for yourself and then not follow through? You didn't do it. You're not allowed to do that anymore. You have to be very intentional about the goals you set for yourself. And then once you set them, you have to follow through, because what's happening is you don't believe you anymore. The next time you come up with another goal, you say, I'm going to create this thing. I'm going to get this thing done. You might believe it in the half second that you decided you're going to do it. And then what happens? Your brain's going to take over and say, you're not going to do that thing. Are you crazy? What makes you think you're going to do that? You didn't do these other 100 things you said you were going to do either. Your goals don't count until they're hard. And it starts with, as soon as you set a goal, you follow through and expect it to be difficult. If it's easy, it's a gift. Expect it to be difficult and show yourself that you do difficult things. So for example, I'm filming today. Switch my hands. Hands getting tired from holding the phone all day. I'm filming today. I'm not at my place. Not in my usual setting. I'm not in my usual gear. I like having my camera set up and my light and my microphone and all of it. I can't do it today, but today is my filming day. Tomorrow I can't film because I got other stuff. I'm working on my YouTube course. I'm working on my membership program. I'm working on promoting my new book, Built to Serve. Go check it out, Built to Serve. So it has to get done today. What many people would do is say, well, whatever, I'll do it next week. You put it off. I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow something else happens and you don't get it done. I adopt the mindset that it doesn't count until it's hard. That if I'm sitting down to record videos with everything perfectly set up, that's a bonus. But I expect things to get hard. I expect life to throw a wrench in my face, right? I expect difficult situations to come up. My goals don't count until they're hard. And I'm the kind of person who follows through on the things I say I'm going to do. That's my belief with myself, let alone what I'll tell other people. To myself, it's not acceptable that it's video day and I'm not making videos. And so I'm filming outside and I'm layered up. And I went through this exercise this morning. Part of what I do every morning is I think about what's my goal for the day and what would prevent me from accomplishing my goal, right? I say I want to do this. What's going to be my roadblock? And I'll pre-plan this in advance. What's going to be a roadblock for me to not filming? So in my head, I said, well, I have to film today. I'm not going to be at home. So I'm going to film today. I'm going to film outside. What's going to prevent me from actually doing it? It's like, well, if it's too cold, right? So what's my solution? And I'll write it down. I'll prepare for it. I'm going to bundle up. So I've got my hat on. I've got my winter jacket on. I've got 2 layers. You can't see it. I got this hoodie, which with the thumb holes, and then I got this hoodie, which is the orange one, the gold one, right? Then I've got a t-shirt on underneath that too to stay warm, right? So I'm making it so that I can follow through and accomplish my goals. But I've tied my self-identity to doing difficult things, to following through when it's hard. And so I want you to commit to less goals. I want you to think about just one goal that you have for yourself. What's one goal? Success equals habit. So what's a habit that you have that you want to keep, that's important to you? And don't tell yourself you're going to do it unless you're actually going to follow through and do it. Make fewer goals and then stick to them. That allows you to build the discipline and the willpower. Because when you believe that you can follow through, guess what happens? You're way more likely to follow through. When you believe that you can't because you've told yourself this ongoing story and proven to yourself that you can't, that you don't follow through, then that's what's going to continue to perpetuate. And then you're never going to go off and accomplish your goals. But you know that you're capable of more. And you live secretly knowing that you resent it, you regret it, you're disappointed in yourself. How do you get self-love? How do you get rid of the disappointment? How do you build self-esteem, self-confidence, willpower? All of it comes from doing difficult things and committing to yourself and following through. So pick fewer goals. Step 1, pick fewer goals. Step 2, expect them to be difficult. Life's going to throw a wrench at you. Step 3, plan for difficulties in that what could throw you off course today from not following through. Look, I almost slipped in some ice. What would happen? If I slipped on that ice, I would keep filming. I would film from the floor. When I broke my neck, I filmed with my broken neck, the collar, the massive pain. There's tons of videos on it. If I slipped on that ice right now, it would not be acceptable for me to stop filming, right? And I would tell my editor, Christina, leave all that in. Leave the falling, leave the ow, leave the like camera pointing at the sky where you can only hear me groaning, and then see me pick up the phone and start finishing this video. And then I would celebrate myself, right? Once you do it and it's hard, you have to celebrate yourself. You pat yourself on the back and say, I'm amazing, I just did that. Is it the best video of all time? No. Could I have done way better? 100%. But I did that. And that starts building the belief system that you can do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So pick that goal. Expect it to be hard. Plan for it to be difficult and what your solution is going to be. And then go off and do it and celebrate. Because you're awesome. And I want to see you win. Now I've got a really special bonus clip that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, question of the day, I want to know, what is the thing that you're going to do? Pick one goal, one habit. What's one thing that you need to stay consistent on this week? And you're going to do it every day, no matter what. Let me know. Put that down in the comments below. And if you made it this far in the video and you promise to take action after watching this video, give me a hashtag believe down in the comments below too.
I define willpower as your mental muscle, right? So if I could draw biceps around my mind, that would be my willpower.
How do you train it?
How do you develop willpower?
Yeah.
Simple way is to finish what you begin, right? Every time you finish what you start, you're developing willpower. Because it's so easy to start a project, but to finish it is much harder. So the three of you have an idea, let's go to New York and do interviews. That's exciting, right? Full of ideas, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do this, we'll go here, we'll fly in a helicopter, we'll shoot this.
That was MP.
That's MP. Then you come here, you have a great time, you shoot, right? Then in a few days, on Sunday, you get on a plane and you fly back to Munich and then to Hamburg, right?
How do you know?
I know things, special powers. I also talked to MP before the interview. So you're exhausted, you get home, you're jet lagged, now you have other work things, your family's there. Now to finish what you begin is going to be a lot of work. To take all these hours and hours of footage, to go through everything, to edit it, it's going to be so painful, right? And then to do it better than you think you can, and to do a little bit more than you think you can. The first interview, you'll do a nice job. The second one, by the fourth and fifth one, you're going like, oh my God, I have like 10 hours of footage here. I have to sit and go through. But to finish it and do it better than you think you can, and to do more than you think you can, takes tremendous amount of willpower. So every time you finish what you begin, you're developing willpower.
If you want to see my favorite deep dive into the world of Bob Proctor, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
I want you to think of this for a moment. Let's suppose there was a virus going around, and this virus caused people to really stunt their growth, ruin their
Good afternoon, guys. We have to positively brainwash our minds. We have to make it our number one priority to start our day that way. It's the one thing that has helped me so much, and it is one thing I'm trying to do is to add value in your life through spreading as much positive thought energy, because it's helped me. It's worked for me, and I hope that it can work for you. In fact, I know it will work for you. But it takes a lot of hard work, it takes a commitment, and it takes you winning the morning. You got to get up earlier. I know it's hard, but maybe you start little by little, and that's the time. That's the focus time where you start filling your mind with positive thought energy. We're going to be brainwashed anyway. Our minds are going to be filled and occupied by default by negative things. If we don't make an effort, that's what will happen. So it's up to you. You got to fight. You got to positively brainwash your mind. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
I asked a question to the universe, which then my cells answered. I asked a question when I just realized and owned I exist as a field energy, a spirit, whatever you want to call it, as information in the field. And I also exist as a body. My first question that came up in my head was, then why have both? Why have a spirit and a body? Why not just be the spirit? And my cells came up with this chorus that I just blasted my head, and it was kind of funny because I think they have Jewish heritage cells, because I asked them a question and they responded in a question. I asked, why have both? And all of a sudden it welled up and the answer came and said, Bruce, if you're just a spirit, what does chocolate taste like? And all of a sudden I said, oh my God. It's the biology, which is all the receptor devices that translate my environment into sensation, which are then translated by the nervous system into fields and vibrational patterns, which are then sent back to my source. And I realized at that moment, I said, my God, we're here to experience this place, to touch it and smell it, watch sunsets and feel love and eat wonderful food and have all this. And I thought, wow. And then all of a sudden I said, yeah, but it's not just receiving information. When you have a body, you can be creative. We can come to this planet and manifest creativity. And we do this, we step into a virtual reality suit called the body. I step into the suit as a spirit. It communicates with me via just the same way the Mars rover is communicating with NASA, and I get to experience this planet. If I have a picture of fear in my mind, I'm afraid of something, my brain translates fear with different chemicals, stress hormones, cortisol, norepinephrine, factors that affect the immune system that are called cytokines or histamine. So basically, in a state of conscious fear, the brain releases chemistry that complements fear. That chemistry goes into the body's blood, and that changes the behavior and the genetics of the person. So that means there's a difference between having positive thoughts and having negative thoughts. And people say, oh, that positive thinking doesn't really work, but that's not true. The best example of positive thinking in a scientific study is called placebo. You have a disease and the doctor says, here's this new pill and it's the brand new science and it's going to cure you, and you believe it. And you take the pill and you get well. Then you find out the pill was a sugar pill. So then you're left with, so what made me well? It's not the sugar pill. It was the positive belief in that sugar pill and how it's going to help your life. So that's called placebo, positive thinking, positive result. Unfortunately, most people don't recognize a more important point. Negative thinking is equally powerful, but it works in the opposite direction. So it turns out, for example, less than 10% of cancer is even connected to a family lineage. 90% of cancer just comes out of the blue, so to speak. But the reality is, no, it's a result of stress and negative thinking. So it's an important point. Positive thinking, negative thinking, equally powerful, because that's the level of consciousness that is translated into the chemistry that controls your genetics. I just want to add a very important point to this. Quantum physics is the most valid science on this planet. There is no science that has been tested more and verified more. I go, so what's the relevance? Because the primary principle in quantum physics is consciousness is creating our life experiences. And now when you add epigenetics to that physics, now we understand the mechanism of how consciousness is controlling our biology. So biology and physics are coming together to reveal that we are very powerful creators of our lives. The science that says there are two minds that are operating at the same time. One is called the conscious mind and one is called the subconscious mind. I say, what's the difference? The conscious mind is where you are as a spirit, an entity, a unique identity. You are in that conscious mind and perceiving the world. I say, what about the subconscious mind? It's not a creative mind. The subconscious mind is habits. Things that you've learned and you experienced in your life, and they become habits. So the subconscious mind is not thinking, creating. The subconscious mind, push the button, play the behavior. So here's the point. When we are in our conscious mind, we are connecting our spirituality to the biology and the physical planet that we're in. And that is the creative mind. That's the one you wake up in the morning and say, oh, I wish I had this and I desire that and these are the things I want. And then you go out and start the day, and then guess what? 95% of the day, you are not operating from the conscious mind. Science has recognized 95% of the day, because we are thinking 95% of the day, our behavior is now controlled by the subconscious mind. I go, okay, so what's the difference? And the final conclusion of this is the conscious mind with your creativity has your wishes and your desires. The subconscious mind was programmed by other people, your mother, your father, your siblings, and your community. So what is the difference? You wake up with a wish and a desire of what you want, and then the rest of the day, you play the programs that you got from other people that don't answer your wishes and don't support your desires, and all you see is the consequence of it and go, oh my God, why is it not working? And the answer is because you don't see, because remember the name is subconscious, below conscious. So when that behavior is playing, psychologists will tell us 70% or more of the programs in the subconscious are disempowering, self-sabotaging, and limiting behaviors. So the simple reality is this: we have great wishes and desires, and yet our life is not controlled by that. Our life is controlled by the programming, and that programming is the disempowering program. So all you see is the consequence of the invisible subconscious, which will sabotage all the desires and wishes you have. And then to conclude that, what if you just didn't default to the subconscious? What if you just stayed in the conscious mind? That's called being mindful. And why is it relevant? Because when you stay conscious, keep your mind present, you are the creator of your life. And when people are in mindfulness, they manifest their wishes, their desires, and their happiness. So for all of us, it's sort of a wake-up call. You think you're running your life with your wishes and desires. It's an illusion. You're really running your life with your programs acquired from other people. In our mind, we start to realize that we're concerned, we're afraid, we don't have enough, I'm not safe, I'm not secure. And I say, oh, these thoughts, I was talking about the thoughts in your mind, go in and control your biology, your genetics, your physiology, and your health. And I go, yes, this is really true. I said, well, how can I tell you what your thoughts are in a sense that can I read your thoughts? And I say, yes, you know, I could put wires on your head, and it's called electroencephalograph, and I could read your brain activity. And I go, oh, great, I can see this brain activity. I want to tell you something that's profoundly important. We were programmed to believe that our thoughts are contained in our head. That if I have a thought, it's just for me, not for anybody else. It's inside, and it's working through me. And now I want to tell you about a new technology. It's not electroencephalograph. It's called magnetoencephalograph. I say, what's unique about that? I say, it reads your brain. I say, yeah, but so does EEG. I say, yeah, but EEG, you put the wires on the head, and you get the electrical activity conducted through the skin from the brain, and that's what I'm reading. And I say, what's different about MEG? The probe is out here. And I said, what does that mean? Your thoughts are not contained in your head. Your thoughts are broadcast to the field just like a radio broadcast. I said, well, what if I, as an individual, have a thought that says, let's have peace in the world? And I broadcast out there in the street and I say, let's have peace. And I look around, it's like, where's the peace? I don't see the peace. And here's what the relevance is. Each of us is broadcasting. If you get enough people to have the same thought, that broadcast is amplified. Each of us has a small power, but if you put 1,000 people with the same thought, 10,000, 100,000 people with the same thought, you are broadcasting a most powerful thought, not just in your body, but out in the field. I say your energy is in the field, the thought is in the field.
And you go, well, what does that mean? And then I'll give you this most wonderful quote. I used it the other day in a lecture from Albert Einstein. And the quote is so important. Here's the quote. The field, so a definition, the field is the invisible energy. Right now you're in a field, there's cell phone broadcasts, television, radio broadcasts, all kinds of information coming across, but guess what? Each one of you is a broadcast in that field. The quote, the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. Particle is the material realm. So what was Einstein saying? It's the energy in the field that shapes the physical experience of our lives. And if enough of us collectively have an energy that's coherent and strong, and we broadcast the belief, we change the world. I just want you to recognize, as much as I wanted peace in the world, if not enough people are out there saying, let's have peace in the world, there is no peace. If I want to say, let's have a war, how can you have a war? You have to have enough people convinced that the war is going to benefit them so that their broadcasts say, yes, let's have a war because I and my colleagues, we're all going to have a better result from that. And the reality is this. The only things that change on this planet collectively are when we collectively share thoughts. And yoga, when you're in your postures, when you're in your process, your mind is sharing a thought, not just in your head, but all around you. So the whole idea about this is we have to recognize we are collectively creating reality with our thoughts. And if we want to change reality, it can change instantly. The moment we become coherent, the moment we collectively are on the same platform of thinking. You get enough people to say peace, there will be peace instantly in this world. But we've been programmed by other people to give them the power to tell us what we need. And as Sadhviji has been telling us so importantly, what we need is not what they tell us, what we need is what we know. And I really hope that you understand this, because when you have your thoughts, recognize it's not contained in your head, your thoughts out in the field. And that thought, the field, is the sole governing agency of matter. And therefore, what this world is looking for at this moment is an evolution. It's not an evolution of our biology. Our biology is already evolved. It's an evolution of our consciousness. When we collectively as a population say enough is enough, it will end. The problem with the concept of power, the power of positive thinking, is people just think, oh, well, if I just have positive thoughts, then my life should be affected. And this is why positive thinking has a real bad rap in the public. And the reason is this. Having a positive thought does not in any way necessitate that those positive thoughts actually manifest themselves. And there's a piece that was left out. And if you don't understand the piece, then you're shouting into the wind with your positive thoughts. Nothing's going to happen. And the fact is this. When you're having positive thoughts, you're using your mind. The new biology reveals that the invisible forces that collectively we refer to as mind, that these form a field which shape biology. Well, here's what's important. Yes, the mind influences biology, but there are two parts to the mind that are completely different than one another, yet they work together. We confuse them, we tie them together, and yet they represent two entities working in two different fashions. There's the conscious mind and what is called the subconscious mind. Now, here's what it's very important, people have to know this, okay, and here's what it is. The conscious mind is our creative mind that is connected to our personal identity and our spiritual selves. That makes us all unique. Each of us has our own personal conscious mind. But what becomes very significant is this, is the subconscious mind is equivalent to a tape player. It's exactly what it is. It records experiences and then plays them back. And so now let's take a look and say, well, wait, there's a thinking mind, and then there's a tape player mind. And what's different about them is very profound. So let's talk about two fundamental differences first. The tape player, the subconscious mind, as an information processor, as the equivalent of a computer, is 1,000,000 times more powerful an information processor than is the conscious mind. So when you look at the power between the conscious and subconscious is a million times more powerful. Number two, on a day-by-day basis, the subconscious mind runs our biology about 95 to 99% of the time. So while you're having all these wonderful thoughts, that's not the conscious mind's not running the show. It's a subconscious mind. Then comes the issue is, well, the subconscious mind got programs in it. Yes. And the subconscious mind is not evil or good. The subconscious mind is a tape player. As much as you can say, okay, here's a tape player. It's good or bad. The tape player is not good or bad. The programs can be good, and the programs can be bad. So blaming the subconscious mind as a negative thing that's the first mistake. It's a tape player. The programs that we got, that's the source of the problems that most of us face. And these programs could limit our abilities and take away our powers, which essentially they do. Now, the relevance about positive thinking is this. Positive thinking is a creative thought that comes from the conscious mind. Okay, so I sit here and I'm going to have all these wonderful thoughts. I'm going to close my eyes and visualize all these wonderful things. Now stop and go back to the mechanical character of it. I'm having these thoughts with a little tiny processor called the conscious mind, and I'm competing with the programs that are in the subconscious mind. So if I have a thought for being healthy or being in a good relationship, and I'm doing positive thinking, and at the same time, I have acquired programs in my development that said, you're not as healthy as you think you are, and you're not that good a person to have those kind of relationships. Then look, I'm now pitting my positive thoughts against my programs, and they're opposite. But this one works on a little tiny processor, and this processor is a million times more powerful. So right away, it's like, who's going to win in that challenge? The answer, of course, the subconscious is going to win, okay? But here comes the other part. While I can try to maintain positive thoughts in my life using my conscious mind, this conscious mind only operates less than 5% of the day. That says 95% or more of the day, I'm operating from the other belief system. The point is, do the math. How powerful are positive thoughts? And the answer is, unless the subconscious has the same programs in agreement as the conscious mind, power of positive thinking will not work. It will not work because you're competing against a much more powerful processor. The belief that is taught is that biology in the world we live in operates according to Newtonian principles. Unfortunate part about that is quantum mechanics 100 years ago said that's obviously not true, and physicists know this is not true, and yet medicine doesn't buy into it because it still focuses on the material reality and lets go of the invisible shaping fields that quantum physics emphasizes as primary. Okay, so we have to change that belief system. We have to get people to recognize that the field and the thoughts and all these other things are as important as anything else in shaping the matter we live in. Number two, the belief which I blew away years ago, but it's still being taught in school, is the concept that genes control life. This is totally false. Genes control nothing. Control is an action. A gene is a blueprint. It's physically, literally a string with blueprint data on it. Why is that relevant? Well, it's interesting. Go to an architect's office, and the architect's working on a blueprint, and then lean over the architect's shoulder and say, is that blueprint on or off? And he looks at you, the blueprint's not on or off, it's a blueprint. Yeah, but we talk about genes being on and off, like genes are turning on and genes are turning off. And the question is, but genes are blueprints. They can't turn on and off. There is no on and off. It's just the blueprint. It's a pattern. What we have failed to focus on because we gave genes a character of self-actualization. That my genes decided to do something. It's like, okay, now we're a victim of the genes. But it turns out biologists know that this is not true. Biologists know that genes are not turned on and off. Genes are read or not read, like blueprints. Then all of a sudden it says, well, it's not the blueprint that's important. If the blueprints were self-actualizing, an architect could go by a building site, drop the blueprints off, come back 2 weeks later, and the building will be there. That's what we think about animals and plants. The genes are blueprints and they'll control all this. It's like, no, the blueprints are important. I'm not saying they're not. You got the bad blueprints, you got some problems going on here. But the issue is, it's not the presence or absence of a blueprint, it's whether the blueprint is being read. And then you say, well, then who reads the blueprint? And the answer is A contractor. And who's the contractor? The mind is the contractor. The mind reads genes. The mind can change the genes readout. Here's something so blow away that most people can't in their conventional world make sense of it, because it's like, it goes like this. The mind, through what is called epigenetic mechanisms, can start with a single gene blueprint and create over 30,000 different versions of products from the same blueprint. 30,000 different products from the same blueprint. All of a sudden you realize, my God, you can infinitely vary the expression of the gene. And the answer is yes. And why has this become relevant to all of us? And the answer is because many of us think genes control our lives. And yet we don't realize that we modify the readout of the gene. So we could be totally healthy and our mind can cause cancer. Our mind can cause any disease, diabetes, anything like that. And what's interesting is the flip side is some people come here with actually defective genes. And guess what? With their mind, they can rewrite those genes and make them normal. So the genes are not the limiting factor, it's the mind.
Something you look at in spontaneous evolution too is how science and spirituality are coming together. They used to be very separate. There used to be
absolutely.
The scientific world, which was very factual driven, and that's that, and you couldn't change it. And spirituality was trying to open up things, but they really are meeting now, aren't they?
Yeah, it was interesting because the spiritual world of religion was talking about the invisible moving forces that shape the physical reality, and we call them spirit. And then science only came into existence because it made a detente with the church. In the very early days of science, it said, look, we won't tread on your invisible spiritual domain. We will just study the physical world. And when Newton was able to predict the movements of the planet by just looking at the physical features, then scientists got the idea as well. If you can understand how the universe operates by just studying the material world, we don't need that invisible stuff. But in 1925, Newtonian physics was incorporated, subsumed by a bigger physics called quantum physics. And quantum physics emphasizes the universe is made out of energy, it's not made out of matter. And then I say, well, what does the quantum physicists call this energy that the universe is made out of? And I say, well, they call it the field. I say, what's the definition of the field? I love this. Invisible moving forces that influence the physical world. I go, my goodness, that's the same definition as spiritual that's used for spirit. And I go, yes. Quantum physics, emphasizing the invisible field as primary to the physical world, is essentially reiterating the statement of the spiritual people who talked about the invisible forces shaping our physical existence. And so, by definition, science, the new science of quantum physics, is bringing us back into alignment with the spiritual reality. Hopefully, the dogmatic beliefs of the church, which had talked about these wonderful terms but didn't allow us to live there, and science, which is still stuck in its material plane, will both divest themselves of their dogma and allow us to come together and recognize that we're all part of that invisible field, that we don't even live in our own bodies, if you understand the nature of how the cell works, that we are part of the field being downloaded into our body, that we're all, by definition, the field, or we're all spiritual, same definition. And if we recognize this, the unity of it, and that you cannot be taken out of the field, and you cannot be, in a sense, punished by the field, you are the field, then maybe the beliefs, those very restrictive beliefs from both science and from the dogmatic religion, will disappear, because the people owning their own spirituality, owning their own responsibility, and not saying, oh, it's spirits that did this or things, other factors, that we are the creators, will generate a new world. Because what I firmly believe is very simple. Go out and talk to the average person anywhere in the world and say, if you could create a world, what would you like? Well, I'd like a world where there's peace and harmony, and I'd like some food and a job. And I go, isn't it amazing how everywhere you go in the world, virtually the entire population has the same belief? I go, then how come we don't have it? And the answer is because the leadership isn't exercising that belief. So I trust the people to take over the leadership of this world, and that the structure that is actually in a state of collapse. When it collapses, this will be our opportunity to evolve from the very destructive Darwinian perception of a world into a more holistic holism that says We're all part of the same system. We're all cells in the same body. And when we work together, we will create magic on this earth like nothing has ever been seen before. So I'm very optimistic about that.
The hardest part about programming that people don't recognize is you have to make all programs present tense positive statements, not future statements. I will have, I shall have, something like that. Say, no, I am. It is. And the reason is it's so logically simple, and that is this. Let's say I'm not well. I say, I want to be well. I say, fine, let's record that.
Uh-oh.
Now let's come back a whole year later and push the button that says, I want to be well. I say, oh, it's been a whole year. You never got there. You just wanted to be well for a whole year. That's what the program said. So if you are sick and you write, I am healthy, and the mind looks at the program and says, oh, I got to change this. It doesn't change the program. It brings health back so that the body matches the program. And so that's the whole issue about it. The function of the mind is to take the program and manifest it. And if you got a negative program, then obviously whatever it manifests is going to be negative.
Good evening, guys. I want to share with you an amazing story of just how powerful we are and how much we underestimate the power of a decision in a moment. I don't know, you guys probably heard about it, maybe you didn't. Last week I shared a link actually on Facebook about a gentleman who had scaled the balconies of an apartment building to save a child that was dangling from, I don't know what it was, 4th or 5th floor, I don't recall exactly, but when asked afterwards how he did it, because it seems superhuman, he just simply said that he saw the child there, he knew that that child needed help, and he just made a decision that that child wasn't going to die while he was there. And he went up those balconies from the outside of the building and climbed up. Incredible. A powerful, powerful story of just how amazing a decision can be if we lock into it with our full power of our mind. Have a great evening, everyone.
Mark Cuban went from being fired from his first job at a computer store because his boss was upset that he closed a sale instead of opening up the shop, that business soon went under, to becoming the billionaire owner of the Dallas Mavericks with an estimated net worth of $4.3 billion. Here's my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
The thing about no matter what you're doing, whether you're trying to be a bartender and learning drinks, whether you're a sales rep, whether you're a programmer, whether you're a consultant, whatever it may be, information now is available to everybody. And the common phrase, knowledge is power. And acquiring that knowledge is just effort. Going out and connecting to people and learning is just effort. And the one thing, I have all these stupid sayings, but the one thing in life that you can control is your effort. And that's 99% of the time. That's the difference between being successful and not being successful. Who worked a little bit harder? When you walk into a room to sell something or to be sold or to try to understand something or to deal with a problem with your kids or whatever it may be, education, who worked harder? That's typically, who worked harder at learning, that's typically going to be the person who has the advantage in the situation. Because we've all walked into situations where we weren't as prepared as we would have liked to be, or we thought we were and somebody knew more. That's the king. The one thing in life each and every person in this room can control from now to evermore is your effort.
Rule number 2, be relentless.
What is your one personal characteristic that has helped you most in your entrepreneurial journey?
I'd say 2. 1, I'm super competitive. I hate to lose. And 2, I'm relentless. I'm the guy. I remember my first company, Micro Solutions, I'd buy a bucket of ribs, and we did system integration, and I wrote software. I'd buy a bucket of ribs, and that ribs I would just eat as I would write software, and I'd be there, and all of a sudden it'd be 36 hours later, or I'd lose track of days just because I just get so focused and so involved in it. That's what I do. And you know, I still, you know, I read the Hadoop manual and learned a little bit about Pig Latin, and I just want to keep up, right? And so that's probably my biggest strength.
Rule number 3, be paranoid in business.
I always say, you know, for every one of my businesses, I said, what would I do to kick my own ass? You right? So whatever business you have, there's somebody trying to put you out of business. There's somebody trying to take a bite out of your business. And it's better for you to figure out how they're going to do it rather than they do it. And so, yeah, that's being paranoid. And so you have to be paranoid. You have to anticipate other people's next moves, and you can't ever, you know, downplay the competition. You know, I was telling, I was at a business plan competition this morning at a college, and they were kind of being dismissive of the competition. And so you can't ever do that. You know, they're out there trying to take you down, and they're not just going to sit still. And if you're good, really, really good, you're going to inspire them to work even harder, faster, better. And so you have to be, you know, very self-aware of what you're good at and what other people are good at. And, you know, a healthy dose of paranoia makes a big difference, is very helpful.
Rule number 4, always be nice.
You were a successful entrepreneur before you bought the Maverick and become an owner. What common element do you see in, you know, running a successful business versus running a successful sports team?
Effort. You know, I've always said the one thing in life you can control is your effort. A lot of people, like we were just saying, a lot of people like to talk and don't like to do the work. I think salesmanship. There's never been a company that succeeded that doesn't have sales. You have to have a product that people want. You have to be nice to your customers. I think nice is underrated. You know, I wasn't always this way, but I think over the last 10, 12 years, I've realized that just by being nice, you get a lot better results, and people tend to want to work with you a whole lot more. So I've recognized that sometimes a smile and you know, just chilling out a little bit goes a long way.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, do memorable things.
One of the attitude I got from my dad was, you know, when you're older and you look back at your life, what will be the things that you remember? And think about that when you say yes or no to doing something that's really bizarre or really interesting. And so I've tried to take that attitude, whether it was, you know, buying the Mavs or doing Dancing with the Stars, or if you really want to see me embarrass myself, and look, I have no problem embarrassing myself, as all my friends will tell you, but if it's something different and it's just something bizarre and interesting, I'll do it. So if you turn to TNT tonight, there's a show called Drop the Mic, and you'll see me rap. And I am the world's worst rapper, but it was so much fun. And so, you know, when I'm 90 years old and I look back and say, should I have done Drop the Mic and rapped and looked like an idiot? Hell yes. Hell yes, right? Because I got this unique experience where this professional rapper taught me how to rap, and they gave me all this stuff, and I got to, you know, battle with Rusev, this guy who wrestles for WWE, who's like 5'8" and 400 pounds of muscle, and, you know, who threatened to kick my ass in our little battle. So it was fun.
Rule number 6, ask the right questions.
Do you think, like, let's just say if we put 10 guys here, you interview them, okay? You could, within a 5-10 minute interview, say, this dude's not going to make it as an entrepreneur. Could you pretty much know that?
You know, I'm not very good at interviewing. The issue is my interview skills more than,
really?
You know, I'm horrible at it.
Isn't Shark Tank interviewing though?
Well, yeah, it is, but I get to do due diligence after the fact, right? So I get to play my henches, but I get to check. Yeah, I mean, I can typically tell, right? I can tell but by their passion, I can tell by their focus, I can tell by their preparation. You know, there's a whole realm of things in any business. Here, you know, here's the business you're in, and here's 1,000 things that influence whether or not you're going to be successful. And really, to me, by, you know, through my experience in businesses, I can put myself in his position and say, okay, here are 900 of the 1,000 things he has to be aware of, and then go through and ask. and by how many of those or her issues they've been able to address already, that kind of gives me a sense of how hard they're willing to work. And I can tell by the questions they ask me. So all I have to do is say, okay, what do you want to know? And, when they start saying, what should I do?
They ask you.
Yeah, and that's fine, right? And I want them to ask questions, but, people like to say, the only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask, and that's not right, right? Because the questions you ask tell whoever more about you than anything else you do. Because in particular, it tells me about your preparation. If you ask me questions about just basic things that you should have known and you should have down to a science, that's going to disqualify you almost more than anything.
Rule number 7, make more content.
In terms of content, there's never too much content. There's just, because what we want and who we are and how we consume content changes every day through our experiences. The challenge of content isn't can you make it or is there too much? The challenge of content, whether it's business content, the proposals you make, what you put on your website, how you connect to people, is can you tell a good story? And now storytelling has evolved. It used to be we all congregated around the TV and there were 250 channels, but it was the best alternative to boredom. You come home, you're worn out, you sit there, one hand goes in the pants, the other hand goes on the beer, and you watch TV. Now, all the content comes to us. No matter where we are, there's a source of content, and who we are and how old we are and our experiences, that defines what we like. Just go to Twitch. Like I have a 9-year-old son who plays Fortnite all day, every day, if we would let him, right? And he'll watch Ninja. Now, Ninja is I don't know if you all know who he is. He's a big guy on Twitch that streams Fortnite games. And he came to the Mavs practice facility one day because we got to be friends just through random sources. He was a bigger star than when Tom Hanks came to visit. And this is a guy on Twitch. Now, Twitch has unlimited options of content related to gaming and other things, and they're expanding. YouTube, obviously, just unlimited content. And it's not like YouTube's struggling. Where the takeaway from all this is when there's so many options for content, as business people, you have to figure out how to connect with people. You have to know your audience, and you have to know how to tell a story. And honestly, that's not my strength. I literally, and I forget the name of the book, I'd have to look at my phone, I'm reading a book on storytelling. Because that's how people connect. We have so many choices. If you can't absorb us with something that engages us, a story, and simplify it into a story that we want to connect with, the next person is going to come in and take your business.
Rule number 8, ignore what others think.
My best mistake, that's a great question. Probably buying the Mavs, everybody told me I was an idiot. And
why?
Just because we were the worst team in all professional sports. And that's what everybody said. And I had paid the highest price for a sports team up until that point. And everybody said I was a moron. The second thing, the other time was when we sold to Yahoo, it was for 28 million shares of stock. And I immediately collared my stock to protect it on the downside. Now, this was not when the internet stock market was cratering. It was still going up, right? And so I collared my stock, meaning I didn't really share in much of the gains going up, and there was a limit to the gains I shared. And Yahoo stock immediately went up 30%. And I remember going on CNBC, and they said, don't you feel bad about losing? It's gone up another 80 points, and you'd be worth another $700 million. And I was like, it's tough to feel bad when you're sitting on your G5 watching CNBC, But yeah, so collaring my stock, everybody thought was a big mistake because they thought the market was going to keep on going up, and that's not how it turned out.
Rule number 9, study the basics.
If you're going to have and run a business, if you don't understand accounting, you're already behind the 8 ball.
Can't you hire a guy that knows how to run
But then
accounting?
they still have to communicate to you, right? There's people that don't understand the concept of, the difference between profits and cash. Your accountant might tell you you're profitable, but your cash is going down. Not understanding a breakdown. And when you don't,
Do you think you need college to learn that?
yeah, I think you do, right? Because it may not, for some people, look, if you're so self-motivated that you can take an online course in accounting and teach yourself everything, you're way ahead of the game anyways. But most people aren't. And I'm not saying you have to go to Indiana. I'm not saying go to an expensive school. I don't care if you go to a community college and take accounting and spend $99 for the class. Just, spending the money forces you to be more obligated to do it. But accounting, finance, lesser extent, marketing, sales, if the school offers that. These are that's the language of business. And so while it's possible to teach yourself these things, and while it's possible to hire them, when you're starting your own company, you don't want to have to spend money hiring an accountant. Right, you're already probably going to have to hire a lawyer to set up your. Well, let me take that. If you've gone through all these classes, you probably don't have to hire a lawyer to incorporate. Right, you can probably figure it out yourself. And so your cost of opening up a business drops. But even more important than all that, that's the blocking and tackling. That's the language of business. You know, the thing I learned at Indiana that was more important than anything else, I learned how to learn. And learning became far more important to me, because the one certainty in business is that it's always going to be changing. If you're not always learning, to this minute, if I'm not continuously learning, if I'm not just absorbing as much as I can absorb, someone else is going to kick my ass.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is enjoy life.
Would you tell us, what do you think is next for you?
I just have fun, you know. Somebody's got to be the luckiest guy in the world, and I think it's me, you know. And I don't want to look back and say, "Wow, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do Dancing with the Stars? Why, you know, why didn't I do Shark Tank? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that?" I just want to experience it and experience with my family, and you know, and just compete, have fun, and learn, and just see where life takes me. I don't have like, here's the one more thing I have to do, or here's the bucket list thing I have to do. Every day of my life's a bucket list, you know, and I mean, I just want to enjoy it.
We all are entrepreneurs, or wonder if we're entrepreneurs at heart. You know, we all have that idea inside of us. We've all been through it. Oh, I got this idea. It's a great idea. You know, and you get all excited. You get that feeling in your stomach, right? And then you go to Google and you Google, oh, there's nobody else doing this. Ah! Then you call your friends. You go, what do you think? What do you think? Oh, that is really cool. I'd buy one. You know, and then most people stop. You know, what's for dinner? But some people, they found their way to turn those into companies, and they found their way onto Shark Tank. And we got to see examples of people from any little town in anywhere in the country with backgrounds that weren't from some big Ivy League school. Maybe you didn't go to college at all. Maybe it was their last dollar and they started it up, and they were desperate to get an investment, but they started it. And we showed examples of people who were willing to take that first step and start that company and where it could go. And I think that really, and to this day, really excites people and encourages them and really shows them that there can be an upside. And on the flip side, you know, there can be failure too. And so you have to be realistic about what can happen.
Amazon's the world's greatest startup. Netflix is the world's greatest
Which makes it harder to innovate. If you were
I think you can still kick their
Cuban,
ass. Starting all over again, I still think you can still kick their ass, right?
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think on the margin, you can't, even at that scale, even with all the AI that they both use, there's still on the margin places to make money where they're inefficient. Because it's still vertical, and it still takes time to get to the edges. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities for small companies to come in. And you're seeing a lot of that now. Like you see growth hacks on Kickstarter, where I have one of my companies, a Shark Tank company, that all they do, their whole entire business now is just releasing products on Kickstarter, delivering them, and then going on to the next product.
Okay.
And it's just a pure growth hack. There's other companies that they measure what's selling the best on Amazon. And then they go out and buy those products, brand them, and sell just on Amazon and buy Amazon. It's just its own little ecosystem where kids are, I try to give this kid some money, right? Literally, because he was so good at it. Didn't need it. He was already making, $1 million a year, working an hour a day just by tracking Amazon.
Really?
Yeah. And there's just, so you can be smart because they're so big.
We just sold a company out of Atlanta that went on Shark Tank as Cycloramic. They had the iPhone that used the buzzer, and you ran this app on it, and it just turned around and did a panoramic version of the phone, took panoramic pictures. Well, they changed the format of the iPhone, which is great. This is a great lesson for entrepreneurs, right? So this guy came in with this really cool app, worked with an iPhone 5, and it just turned around and take panoramic pictures and then stitch them together, and it was a cool picture. Well, so I give him $250,000, I think, for 20% of the company or 25% of the company. Not 4 months later, Apple changes the iPhone, and it's got this like rounded thing underneath, and we're like, oh, what are we going to do? But the guy was smart, and one of the things I always look for companies coming in is, what's your unique advantage? What is the one thing you have that differentiates you from other companies? And for this guy, the product was interesting, but as I said on the show, the ability to program video and use what became computer vision was a unique skill that was hard to find. And so we worked with him and actually worked with him to bring in another CEO. And they used that same technology to be able to scan cars. So now if you go to websites like Carvana to buy a car and you see how you can turn the car around just right there, that started with their software. And the guy's name is Bruno. So Bruno, we just sold his company for $22.5 million a couple weeks ago. And so I walked away with 25% of that. So I was like, yeah, Shark Tank.
What I advise people